So for a long-range weapon, we actually have the most weapons I think we've ever included. There's going to be 14 weapons in today's video, as well as talking about them in terms of Caldera, Fortune's Keep, and Rebirth Island, depending on your individual preferences. We'll be looking at the muzzle velocity, which is pretty important, rate of fire, a little bit less important, mag size, damage per mag go hand in hand, are a huge determining factor of how good a gun could be in higher game modes. And then we got the practical TTK, which we'll touch on, but some of these do have a little bit slower practical TTK. And then behind my cam, we'll go ahead and even talk about Warzone pick rate, as well as the overall KD of the players picking that. But before we dive deeper, we do have a sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. So football season has officially kicked off, and each team is out there game planning for their next opponent. And while that's going on, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is drawing up their own winning play for all brand new customers. All new customers need to do to sign up is use promo code JGOD, bet $5 on any team before their game kicks off, and if that team manages to win, you'll end up with $200 in free bets. That's right, any new customer that bets $5 on their team to win that next game is going to be rewarded with $200 in free bets if that team wins. Plus, with same game parlays all season long, you can combine multiple bets from the same game to give yourself a shot at some bigger winnings. And if you happen to be in a state where sports betting isn't available, DraftKings Daily Fantasy has been working on ways for you to still win cash this football season. DraftKings has been around a while, so you know that your funds are safe and can be withdrawn whenever and wherever you want. So download DraftKings Sportsbook now. New customers using promo code JGOD will receive $200 in free bets if their team wins after betting $5 on a team before that game starts. That's promo code JGOD only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Welcome back. So we'll start off with the Bruen. Has been phenomenal pretty much since the beginning, and the main reason that kind of holds it back is the slow Modern Warfare LMG. LMGs are held back a little bit unless they're just super easy to use. This one, although it is easy to use, it has a very slow reload, bad mobility, and it also has an open bolt delay, which really isn't factored into this practical TTK. This is the most common TTK you'll get in the standard game modes, and this is one that I think does really well in higher game modes because of this damage per mag. But it's kind of one of those things you got to balance out. It doesn't really have the high zoom optic like we're typically going to see with the Vanguard weapons, which kind of allows them to edge out. You can see overall the pick rate is only 0.2%, so almost no one's using that gun. It is kind of a pain in the butt to unlock if you haven't unlocked it, and then it has a 1.02 KD. As we can see, go down the list, we can go ahead and see these various weapons that have pretty fast TTKs. The Nikita, very good. And this is one of the weapons that was used in the Fortune's Keep $50,000 tournament the other day for trios. But what we can see here is despite its fast TTK, it kind of struggles in the damage per mag, even though it does have a 60 round mag. It's kind of like an M13 a little bit, the Vanguard version. We can see the pick rate's 0.9 and the KD is a little bit lower. So even though it feels easier to use in a one-on-one, there's a lot of situations where you're just gonna get caught reloading, or you down a player and you're not able to thirst them because of that issue. And even though I'm not gonna talk about every weapon on this list, I'm talking about key aspects about specific weapons in this general area. We have the Vargo and the XM4, which are very mirrored towards each other in terms of bullet velocity, rate of fire, damage per mag, and even practical TTK, but they see different usage, primarily because one you have to unlock and one was just unlocked through progression leveling. And the biggest problem with this one for both of these weapons is that they don't have the effective high zoom, so it makes them prime candidates for the smaller maps. You can see that the usage is drastically different, with one being almost 4% and the other one being 0.8 because of the thing I just mentioned. But look at the TTK variance there. Super easy to use. Damage per mag is very reasonable, especially for trios and less. Quads, it can get a little tricky. You're going to definitely have to choose your positions a little bit smarter and position according to that. And the one that has the highest KD, might be a little surprising, this just kind of shows you how broken it is, even after the nerfs, is the Gorenko. There's not really much competition at the long range compared with that rate of fire. Now we'll go ahead and jump into the loadout. So we'll start off with the top tier viable. Obviously the Kilo is still one of those ones that a lot of people favor just because it's easy to use, but the damage per mag suffers even after the buff because of the changes to health they've made. Right here we got the regular tried and true class, monolithic, 19.8, 3x optic, commando foregrip, 60 round mag. Obviously you can go with the 100 round mag if you really want to go for that, and that does kind of make it a little bit more viable in terms of that category, but it will be rather slow. The Bruen we already kind of touched on. This is kind of one of the builds. There are multiple builds where maybe you get rid of the tac laser and put in the 60 round mag, but it will lead to a little bit more recoil, which will be harder for some. So monolithic summit barrel with the tac laser, 3x, and the commando, and that'll give you 100 bullets in the mag. When you go ahead and move on to the next one, which is top tier viable, this is the Grau and the STG. The Grau is a better option than the Kilo. It's super easy to use, and you can go ahead and rock the iron sights, especially on console. Because of the lower FOV, you get significantly more zoom. It makes that much more of a viable option. 3x is great as well, and we have that there with the monolithic Archangel VOK commando and 60 round mag, which we got the STG, which because the Vanguard weapon, it just has so many attachments that help it out, and it has an okay TTK that we saw. MX silencer, 760 we got the 3.25 hybrid optic, and that's primarily for Caldera. If you want to use it on the smaller maps, you just swap the optic and you're good to go. We got weighted, nerves of steel, fully loaded, hatch, 60 round, lengthened with the Carver foregrip. Pretty straightforward build, and that brings us into a bunch of weapons that are essentially basically meta. I wouldn't necessarily say they're the meta for all three of the maps, but when it comes to the smaller maps, these are definitely in contention with the meta, and they work perfectly fine in multiple game modes, just factoring in the damage per mag as being the only weakness. We got right here, we have the Whitley, which is actually pretty solid. Even though it only has 45 bullets, it hits pretty hard because it does have a slower fire rate. It's a little bit more unforgiving, but it's really easy to shoot because it shoots straight. So you kind of have that balance there. And that build is pretty similar to what we've had in the past. MX silencer, the Gracie Mark 9. We got the 2.5 on smaller maps or the 3.25. And that's what I'm gonna mention that now, but that works for all of them. So it's a matter of preference. The CGC R4 hard scope on hand hatch, the 45 lengthen and then hand stop, or you can go ahead and even go Carver if you want to go ahead and tighten that recoil or strife angled. That one comes down again to preference. Then we have the Lienna, which is kind of slept under the radar. I didn't even do a dedicated video covering this weapon, even though it is pretty solid, primarily as a sniper support because you're more geared towards smaller maps, but overall it does hit pretty decent. It doesn't have the fastest TTK, but it is super easy to use. You got MX silencer, the shrouded barrel, the optic, whichever one you want to use, the bomb and GMK, tight grip, fully loaded, hatch, 75, lengthened, strife angled. It's a pretty straightforward build there. And then that brings us into the next category, which is ones I kind of touched on. We have the Cooper, which has been wildly popular just because it's super easy to use. Biggest drawback, damage per mag. You can actually get this thing to fire super fast if you do max rate of fire build with recoil booster, compressed rounds, those types of things. But this is more of a long range build. If you want to use it for the anything else, close range sniper support, you'd build it completely different. For long range meta, that you're going to go ahead and have MX silencer, Cooper custom, 3 to 6x, or the 3.25 because that's kind of more the meta now. We got the Cooper custom padded, tight grip, on hand, polymer, 60 round lengthen and Carver. And again, like I said, you can go to 2.5 if you're going to be using it on the smaller maps, or maybe this one's a little bit more versatile and then you don't have to get a secondary as a primary weapon, right? Then we got the Nikita. This is the one they use to win the 500k tourney for Fortune's Keep. I tried it a bunch. I felt like it was good in a one-on-one, one-on-two situation. MX silencer, the BFA barrel with the Empress BFA, 2.5, Empress notch, disabled for the extra bullet velocity. We got fully loaded, hatch, 60 round length and strife angled. This one, on average, I felt like it was between 22 to 30 bullets in practice. Like I would get it down and I would have used around 22 bullets on average. So more than likely, if I try to go for the thirst, I'll use about 30 bullets. So you get in kind of a tricky situation. If you're at range, you're going to burn through bullets pretty quick. So that is, again, the main drawback with that gun. If you had an 80 round or even 75, like the Automaton or Automaton, you would be in a really great spot with the gun, and I don't think it would be overpowered. I think it would be a lot of fun. Then that brings us to a little bit more of a higher skill weapon here, which is the EM2. It's always been nasty. It used to be significantly more broken, but this is kind of where it's landed because of the change to health. Overall, pretty same build. We got Agency Task Force Field Agent, 40 round. You could go 50. It is going to be significantly slower for 10 bullets, which could matter. And then you could even drop the optic because it does have like a 2x optic on it by default, I believe. And then you can go ahead and put on like a Serpent Wrap for faster aim down sight, and then you're good to go. Or you can put on something for strafe speed. Automaton is one of those ones that a lot of people seem to like still. I feel like it just waste too much ammo because it takes too many bullets to get it down, even though it's theoretical TTK or practical TTK is actually pretty solid, right? It's just super easy to use, and it's been used. It just kind of get bored of using a gun, even though it is good, right? MX silencer, the 600 BFA. We got the 3-6X, or we go to 3.25, 3.5. There's a lot of different options when it comes to optic. Use whatever you want on that. Anastasia padded, tight grip, fully loaded polymer, 75 Langton, and then Carver. And then that brings us into the next one, which is basically meta. I would say this is meta chaser for it's 100% Rebirth and Fortune's Keep. And this one kind of borderline, they're good enough to really be used because of the versatility, especially with the XM4 on Caldera, because you can get a fast reload in, the mobility is pretty decent. The optical zoom is your main struggle, but besides that, you're really solid with both of these. And they both have pretty much the identical build. XM4 rocking Agency, Task Force 3X, Field Agent 60 round. And then we got the Vargo, which pretty much holds the same. It's a little bit different underbarrel here. We got Grau Task Force 3X 60 round, and then the Spetsnaz Speed Grip does horizontal, which kind of just makes it so you only got to pull vertical, which makes it a lot easier in terms of recoil pattern. Both very good. As we saw, they're mirrors of each other. And that brings us to the Meta Chaser, which I kind of already alluded to. The UGM, it is broken in many ways, but you really can't fix it. It's kind of one of those tipping points, just like DMR, where it goes from complete broken to complete garbage. There's no really in between, because then it just causes people to jump ship to another thing. MX silencer, the Bernard 2.5, the Mercier, tight grip on hand, hatched, 100 round lengthened with strife angled. Then we got the Gorenko, which sat at the best TTK there at 1.3, which is crazy. We've never had a sniper be that high in terms of KD. Then we got Mercury, Empress, 3D6X, or one of the other optics, reinforced stock, discard on hand stippled 10 round mag with the FMJ or bipod. And what some people are doing, because they don't like the slow ADS, you could actually just drop the mag entirely and you'll be left with the 5 round mag. And this does speed up the aim down sight time. So hopefully you guys are ready for Modern Warfare 2. I'm going to have tons of content related to the campaign and the full game leading up to Warzone 2. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.